Hi, this is Thomas Donald Jacobs for Paperboys on Thursday, and today's topic is: have you had relatives with a disability, and how did you explain your transition to them? Um, I think this is directed more at cognitive impairments as opposed to um, physical disabilities. So, my paternal grandfather had a series of major and mini strokes. And the older he got, the more confused he became at times. When I first started my transition, I did discuss this with my father, and we mutually decided that I would not, and neither would anyone else, mention my transition to my paternal grandfather. And that caused me some sadness, but I think that in this case, that was the right decision. Um, it would have confused and upset him, um, and to no point or purpose. Uh, that would have been more about my feelings and how caught up I am and being recognized for who I am than what he was dealing with. And, you know, the situation was probably mitigated by the fact that I don't live near my family. I live halfway around the world. And so most of my contact with my family on a regular basis is by phone. And already when I called my grandfather by that point, he often didn't know who I was. Sometimes he thought I was my sister. Sometimes he thought I was one of my cousins. Sometimes he thought I was my brother if I had a head cold. Um, so I was already kind of used to the idea of him not knowing exactly who I was, or if he did, he wasn't able to express it. So that didn't actually get too hard. I think that if I had seen him um, on a regular basis, then it would have been different, I think. Um, and that is something that I do worry about when it comes to my maternal grandfather. Um, he has trouble remembering my name and that I am transitioning. It is not intentional. Um, and so I tend to just let it slide. Um, if I saw him more often and it was happening while I was sitting there, physically sitting there, I think that I'd probably be more bothered by it. But again, I think that I would um, tend not to make an issue out of it. Um, I don't know that it would serve a purpose. Um, I think after a certain point, if senility or dementia may be at play, um, you just have to roll with the punches, um, and remember that um, everybody else around you is probably experiencing the same thing when dealing with this individual. It's not directed at you specifically. Um, I kind of worry about that with my mother too. if she gets older and starts to have difficulty remembering who I am, I think that that would be a lot harder, um, particularly because she was not as immediately accepting um, of me as her father was. Now I know that she's trying, and that helps me a lot. And if that went backwards, um, I think that would be more upsetting in some ways. Um, but again, I think I would just have to roll with it. Uh, I think that people who are elderly and uh, having trouble relating to the world around them, um, I don't need to add to their problems. Um, just because my feelings were hurt. That's not an intentional thing that they're doing. Um, I've been around a lot of people with senility and advanced dementia and Alzheimer's. It's a scary enough place for them already. I don't need to make it worse. So I think that yeah, I would probably just try to go with the flow. Um, One of my uncles who passed away before I began to transition had Down syndrome, and I think that that might have been um, a different experience. I think that he would have had very little trouble accepting me because he loved me unconditionally. He had no vested interest in whether or not I had a beard or, um, you know, what name I liked to call myself by. Uh, so I think that, that would probably be a different situation. But I can't say for sure because, again, he passed away before I began my transition. So I'm interested to hear what other guys on the channel um, may have to say about their experiences in dealing with relatives with a disability and how they explained what was happening to them, or whether they, as I did in one instance, decide to say nothing at all. Um, so maybe that was helpful to somebody. So I'll see you next week. Bye.